Hey guys, to help run the forums, host the website, and travel, we've introduced a universal service fee for in-depth coverage, including this video. My goal is to be unbiased and transparent. It's a privilege to serve you. This is not an endorsement. Let's get into it. Hey guys, today we're in Richmond, British Columbia. It's a beautiful day, and we found this awesome kind of vacant lot, and I guess this is some sort of electrical, grid. And I'm not seeing any Sparks, but this is the Spark Bikes Spark RX, and just thought it was kind of fun, play on words a little bit. It's the first time I've had a chance to look at the Bafang M600 mid-drive motor. Pretty cool. Creates a little bit of a kind of a whining noise, like a lot of these planetary geared mid motors. They're all sort of that way. They just have different sounds that they produce. This one offers 120 newton meters of torque, which is pretty impressive. It's locked in at 500 watts, which is legal in the US and Canada. And Spark Bikes is a Canadian company. These guys have been around since 2017. They've got like 8 bikes now. So, that's another one of them over there. That's the Spark Mini folding fat bike. This is one of the more premium models. It does come at a higher price, $23.99 US or $27.99 Canadian. Free shipping in the US or Canada. Comes in 3 different colors as well. There's like black, this metallic silver, and metallic red. Pretty interesting mix of value here and higher end stuff. The battery is definitely one of those higher end choices here. 48 volt, 17 amp hour, 815 watt hours. Pretty awesome. That's going to get you a lot of range, especially with an efficient mid-drive motor. And this motor is measuring your rear wheel speed, crank torque, and crank cadence. So it's pretty sophisticated. And I did test this while riding. I pedaled gently and sort of slowly, so I wasn't putting a lot of torque pressure on it, and the motor really backed off. And then as soon as I applied more pressure, it picked up. So this is it's a sophisticated system, much like a lot of those mid drives. You have to have a custom frame that will interface with these, and that does contribute to the price. Got this plastic like skid plate along the bottom with some venting there. And check it out, we have a narrow wide chain ring. I think this is 38 tooth, narrow wide, meaning that every other tooth is narrow or wide to fit perfectly in between the different chain lengths and lock it on, so you don't need a guide. You could still jump off, I suppose, but that's not too bad. And then the drivetrain on this 9-speed, we've got a Shimano Alivio derailleur back here, which is nicer, several steps up in the Shimano line, and then 11 and 34 teeth in the rear, so a pretty wide spread. Sometimes I'm used to seeing like 11 to 36 Shimano Dior, which would be another step up from this, but not bad for a bike that's trying to blend value and giving you a throttle with a mid-drive. That's something unique that Bosch, Brose, Shimano, they don't offer that. Bafang is stepping into this space a little bit more. We've had the BBS01, BBS02, but they didn't have torque sensing like this. They weren't as sophisticated. It was just cadence sensing. So this is definitely a step up in my books. And check it out. Spark Bikes has this nice steel derailleur guard back here. So that's going to help protect the derailleur if you do get this shipped to you, which is sort of how they sell. It's sort of an online direct-to-consumer setup. I like the black spokes, a little bit thicker 13 gauge. There's the magnet that passes by that sensor over there. A lot of times I'm seeing that sensor on the left chainstay, not the right, and that would allow you to have a slap guard. They do include a slap guard, neoprene, in the box, but it doesn't really fit over that. You could maybe put it for just this portion, or you could take a clear piece of tape and stick it on there. That's probably what I do, just so that the chain doesn't start to nick up the nice paint. So anyway, coming back to the colors and everything, black hubs, black spokes, black rims, black fenders, plastic. And the rear fender was a little bit out of alignment. We just kind of bent it into place. It's been holding up pretty well, but that's one of the trade-offs here. It mounts here, and then back here on this one support, but it's not mounted to this rear rack. The rear rack is a little bit thicker. It's not standard gauge tubing, so it might not fit with all of the clip-on panniers, but it does have a bungee loop down here, so you can fasten down your cargo, and it does have space for this integrated rear light, unbranded, single LED. It's kind of basic, but it does run off that high-capacity battery. The rack is only rated to 15 kilograms, which is about 33 pounds versus 55 pounds on most of the other more standard racks that I see. And it does interface in kind of a unique way down here on the insides of those seat stays. So it's a bit of a mix, but it'd be good enough for commuting. You could put a trunk bag on top or hang some panniers off the side if you got the right ones that would fit on this. So I'm trying to be really thorough. I'm not sure if this would fit certain child seats. Maybe there's the Yep one that kind of easy fit, but now the new ones just clamp onto the sides. But again, limited to 33 pounds, 15 kilograms. You know, just keep that in mind. The fender's plastic, which is nice. They're going to be resilient and kind of bounce back, versus steel, which weighs a little bit more, and if it gets scratched, you could get some rust. Aluminum, which can rattle and make more noise. Plastic can also make some noise, but again, they're not too bad. They've got these rubber flaps and everything, and they're kind of checking that box to make this a commuter-ready platform. Even though it really looks like a mountain bike, kind of a hardtail, you've got that suspension fork up front. This is a spring suspension fork, so it's going to weigh a little bit more, but it does have hydraulic lockout here, sort of kind of compression lockout, so you can take it halfway if you want to get a little bit of comfort, or all the way open if you want that extra travel. And then there's preload adjust as well, so depending on your weight, you can preload those springs and reduce some of that bouncy feel, but it doesn't have rebound adjust. So you still might get some spring. It's just dial it in for your weight, and keep in mind that you could swap this out, but this looks like a straight head tube to me, okay? So it's not tapered. That might limit your options for air forks and nicer stuff. And there's no quick release down here. So this is just 10 millimeter threaded axle, and same thing in the rear. 10 millimeter threaded axle. It's not like a quick release or through axles or anything. It should be still fairly sturdy, but maybe not as convenient if you were going to, you know, take the wheels off to do some trail maintenance. You'd need an actual tool or a couple of wrenches so you could hold one side while you're unscrewing the other. I like the brakes here. These are Tektro hydraulic 3-finger levers with adjustable reach. They have motor inhibitors built in, and we've got nice large 180 millimeter rotors, front and rear. Good stopping power, pretty easy to actuate, and it's nice when you've got 120 newton meters of torque and a bike that's rated class 2. So again, it has a trigger throttle. That's part of what makes this unique in the world of mid-drives. Up to 32 kilometers per hour, about 20 miles per hour. So it's class 2, it's not class 3. I'm going to go into the display a little bit later, but there's so many other things to call out here. We've got this nice kickstand, 40 millimeter bolt pattern like that there. It's adjustable length. Nice oversized Welgo platform pedals, extra space and extra grip, traction for your feet. These are aluminum alloy. Welgo does have magnesium ones that are lighter weight, but you know, these are already pretty solid. Again, I said the bike weighed about 61 pounds, in part because of this 8.8 pound battery pack. The motor is like 8.15 pounds down there, so a lot of that weight is low and centered on the bike. Pretty good weight distribution, but you're getting a little bit more weight with that suspension fork we talked about, and then the included SR Suntour NCX suspension seat post. Very nice. It gives this a full suspension feel, combined with that Selle Royale look-in basic saddle. You can see you look inside of it. You can see the gel in there, pretty comfortable. And then that suspension seat post, if you take it out, there's a preload adjust on the bottom, so you can stick an Allen key in there and tighten and loosen it, just like that suspension fork. So again, straight head tube versus tapered, heavier, more basic fork, but still has lockout. Decent suspension seat post, not the highest end. This is not a Connect sort of body float or thud buster, but SR Suntour does some pretty good stuff. 27.2 millimeters on that if you wanted to swap it out with a rigid seat post, which would allow you to get that saddle even lower, to lower the minimum saddle height. You can see that top tube sloped, so the minimum standover height is already fairly low. They still managed to fit that bottle cage right there. So pretty much everything you need. You got fenders, integrated lights, a SATE light up front, and then you've got that bottle cage right there along with a rack, so you could just bring anything you need. I like that they went with ergonomic grips. These are locking. They're not my favorite personally. I like Ergon a little bit better, but these Velo ones work pretty well, and you don't get the numb wrists quite as easily. Got a little flick bell built in, and then the trigger shifters over here. These are also Shimano Alivio. So see that high lever? It can go forward or back like that, which is nice. So it's really up to you what you prefer and whatever position your hand is in. And then that low lever going to those climbing gears. 1, 2, 3. 3 shifts in one. I like that. You've got the little display right here. It's a pretty good setup, but because they use trigger shifters and not like the raised thumb shifters, they had to put the trigger throttle over on the left. Some people aren't going to love that. I think a lot of people being right-handed, you want like twist throttle or trigger over here. but it certainly gets the job done, and it allows you to have those nicer trigger shifters, which I definitely prefer. The button pad is also located over here on the left, a little bit of a reach over that trigger throttle, but not the end of the world, and the display is tucked in neatly right here, kind of flexibly mounted, so you can kind of pivot it a little bit. And check this out, guys. It has a USB port. That's USB Type A, full size, 5 volt, I think maybe 1 amp. I haven't fully tested that, but we've got another one right here on the side of the battery, right? So you could potentially take this battery off the bike, hang out in the park and use it to fill your cell phone, or maybe you store that inside because you do want to keep that in a cool, dry location. If it's a really hot day or a really cold day, that can prematurely wear the cells or limit the capacity and thus the range that you're getting. So I'm going to take this off real quick to show you guys. I like these semi-integrated batteries. They keep weight a little bit lower on the frame. You'll notice this is spring-loaded, locking cylinder. Okay, it's kind of tough to get this all with one hand. There we go, we got it. It's that 8.8 pound battery pack. Here it is again, 17 amp hours, 48 volts, 800, I think, 16 watt hours. I was 1 watt hour short before. There's the interface, and then on the bottom, kind of this tip-in system. I want to show you the charger over here. I do like the chargers that Spark Bikes is going with. It's these stands. I've seen these on a lot of other bikes, but they actually went with the 3 amp charger, a little bit faster, so you're going to be back on the trail quicker or able to commute further distances. If you're using this to get to work, there's a little charging port on the side of the battery. This nipple thing does actually fit in pretty well. In the past, I've had trouble like getting these to fit. Maybe it's a temperature thing, I don't know. I feel like over the years they've gotten better and better at these battery designs. And Spark Bikes is not the only company that's been using this. You see this on a lot of competing products, and then it just comes down to the rest of the bike, what kind of choices they've made. You'll notice there's a lot of internal cable routing going on here, so it's a nice clean looking frame. They're going to stay out of the way, but there is a bit of a mess up front just because there are so many cables. We got the trigger throttle right here. We got the button pad with plus, minus, and power. We got the display coming in. We've got both brake levers, hydraulic, along with motor inhibitors and the shifter. It's just a lot. So I think they've done the best that they could to get it all seated neatly and run through the frame. I also want to call out and kind of mention that this headlight, it's aimable, but it's mounted to the arch of the suspension. So if you're on rough terrain and that suspension lower section is traveling up and down, so is the light, versus having it up here or maybe right here where it would be suspended with your body and the rest of the bike. So that's a bit of a gripe that I call out occasionally. It's a minor thing, it's not the end of the world, but it's room for improvement type of mention. I was riding earlier, I was really impressed with how quickly how high the RPMs would go for this M600 from Bafang. I mean, it really kept up. Some motors cut out at like 100 RPM. This one seemed to go to at least 120. There isn't an RPM readout on the display, so I can't say for sure, but I would guess 130, maybe even higher than that. And then the interface here, see how there's a bolt going through the spindle? It just seems a little bit nicer. I can't quite see back there. I don't know if it's splined or what, but when you look at that narrow wide aluminum alloy chainring and you look at the way that these crank arms, 170 millimeter, how they're bolted on, it's actually a pretty nice setup. They're using some higher end stuff in certain areas, and then other areas it's a little bit more basic to keep that price point. The $23.99, $27.99 Canadian dollars. I think that's a pretty good look over. Who would be riding this bike? I feel like you could do a little bit of trail riding, maybe some mountain biking. It's a hardtail, so not super comfortable if you get on really rough stuff, but that suspension seat post really helps. And then the stem, it's 90 millimeters, so there's a bit of reach. There's a little bit more reach on this bike, making it more sporty and forward leaning, but then you take the edge off with that suspension fork. I think if this was me, I'd get a stem that was a little shorter and angled up, and maybe even like mid-rise handlebars instead of these low-rise bars, and that would bring it more upright, and then I could commute with it more comfortably. So right now it's really a hybrid, kind of commuting, kind of aggressive, right? And again, the mid-drive, very efficient, pretty good option. Thought I'd walk the bike over into the shade here to show you the display, because it is backlit. Looks a little bit nicer this way, so I'm going to hold the power button for a second. Boots up fairly quickly. And I don't know if you guys can see it, but I can see assist. It starts off in level 1, which means that the throttle is hot, right? And the throttle is actually, like, the amount of power that you get is based on the level of assist. So that was level 1. If we click the plus button and we go all the way up to 5, or this boost mode, it's really gonna zip. So here we go. Right? It's even more powerful and even faster. Kind of sounds the same without any weight on the bike, but I was testing that earlier. I thought it was pretty cool. You really can't circle around, so you have to press minus several times to get down. You can ride in assist level 0 and the throttle doesn't work. Nothing really happens. In that case, you would just get the lights and the display. So to activate the lights, you press the plus button. There we go. There's the headlight. I was not able to figure out how many lumens or lux this thing offers. It does have a physical on-off, like, twist thing on the front too, which is interesting. And then there's that single LED rear light. You know, at least it's tucked in and stuff. It's not super bright. You might get a little bit of side visibility unless your panniers block it. The tires on this bike, by the way, 27.5 by 2.10. So they're not super wide or anything. They do have that nice knobby tread, but they don't have reflective sidewall stripes or puncture protection. They're a little bit more basic. I think that's another cost saving. So again, coming back to no quick release, just regular bolts, kind of basic tires. You want to keep an eye so you don't get flats. Top right, we have a battery infographic, and it's like a gradient, and it's very precise, but we also have percentage. So we're at 100% right now. Current speed. And then in the bottom, we have a lot of other readouts here. So, oh, and there's even a light icon. So the lights are on right now. We got a little light indicator. It's a small screen. If you imagine being way up here, if it was dark out, you'd see that just fine. But in the bright sunlight, it might be a little bit more difficult. There is even like a little light sensor. So the lights will come on automatically when it's dark out, which is cool, but you can override that with holding a plus. Anyway, we come back to that. See how it says odometer down there? If we press this power button, it cycles through. So it goes from odometer to max speed, average speed, range, which is dynamic. So if I go up to assist level 1, it says, oh, 67 kilometers, which is kind of cool. And then from next menu, calories burned, power in watts that the motor's using, timer, trip distance, and then back to odometer. So there's a lot of good stuff there. If I arrow all the way down from 0, there's a walk mode, and it's kind of buried. Normally you just hold minus. Let's try that. If I'm in level like 2 and I hold minus, like nothing happens, right? But if I go down to walk mode and I hold minus, the bike starts walking itself. So that's useful if you're maybe got a flat tire or you don't want to use the throttle. This is a variable speed throttle, but you'd have to hold it with your thumb the whole time versus having a constant speed of holding the minus. I guess it's kind of similar, but it's nice that they included walk mode. I feel like it's a feature-rich drive system from Bafang. They've been doing a good job, you know, improving incrementally. And I feel like the integration of this high-capacity battery with a nice-looking compact motor, you know, 8-ish pounds, not too bad. It's sort of a price point mid-drive bike with all these accessories, even though some of them are a little bit more basic. They get the job done, and Spark Bikes, having been around since 2017, they offer that comprehensive year-long warranty. And I was talking to the founder, and he's like, yeah, we ship for free to the US and Canada. That's pretty cool. Sounds like they've been growing just organically, and I respect that. It's a pretty cool looking bike too, in my opinion. I like the colors and stuff. And some of the black models really look nice, all the accessories and stuff blend right in. So enough said. I think I'm gonna hop on this thing and scoot around a little bit and just mount this thing. Whoosh. Does not come in any other sizes or any other frame styles. I think, you know, one is pretty gentle. Pretty responsive, right? So I'm not gonna change assist level, I'm just gonna pedal harder. See how it got louder? Like it's actually a good torque sensor. I think that's kind of cool. It's dynamic. But then if I take it up to assist level 5, I'm not going to push very hard. And it's noticeably stronger. So the assist levels does a pretty good job of upping the power. Now I'm gonna push hard and in assist level 5. Quite zippy, right? So that's cool. Now I wonder about boost, so I'm taking it up to the boost. To me, it seems kind of similar to assist level 5. I wasn't really able to tease out too many differences, but the assist level also impacts your throttle. So this is level 5. Pretty powerful. And if I take it down to 1, yeah, I'm just not going to be able to hit that top speed. I'm not getting as much power. So you are somewhat limited by the assist level you choose, which to me is sort of a bummer. I like it when the throttle gives you full power all the time, because maybe I'm using assist level 1 to just mosey along, and then I see someone, I need to catch up with them, or I need to pass someone or climb. I want to be able to like really pick things up with that throttle, but I can't here. I have to press the plus button several times, plus, 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 to then get full power. So this is something I've kind of mentioned on other reviews too, and I think it just comes down to how Bafang set this up, or maybe how Spark Bikes set this up, and you know, coordinating with them. Okay guys, from here you can see that 38 tooth chainring, narrow wide, gotta love that. And this appears to be a rust resistant chain, which is nice. 9 speeds in the rear, decent derailleur. You got that derailleur guard. I'm gonna pedal through, shift through the gears, just ride along and give you a chance to see that motor starting and stopping with pedal assist only. Okay, and keep an eye on my high pedal cadence, okay, because I'm gonna pedal super fast at first, and you can see that this motor keeps up pretty well. It's pretty impressive. And again, the sensor, the speed sensor's on this side, which is weird to me. Normally it's on the other side. It kind of creates a little bit of extra crowding over here, and you do want to make sure that that magnetic sensor, see it right there? See how it's a little bit off right now? It's not aligned quite perfectly, and it's sort of like tilted a little bit. If that gets too far off track, you're going to lose speed sensing, and some sort of error will probably appear on the display. So anyway, I'm going to pedal along. I'm going to do this in the highest level of assist, level 5, just to give you the full experience of sound and speed. Oh, so I actually did outpace the motor there for a second, but again, I think that was at least 120 RPM. A little bit of a delay there when I stopped pedaling. This time I'm going to do the throttle. Pretty good experience, and I think I'm gonna show you guys the suspension fork for this bit. Good stuff. You can really tell, you know, when the motor turns off, because it is a little bit louder. You get that signature sound. Every drive system seems to have one. I think that's about it, you guys. That's a Spark RX from Spark Bikes. For the full written review on this, including the weight, the dimensions, all the other stats that I gather, I'll see you back at ElectricBikeReview.com. Feel free to chime in if you have any feedback about this company. They have been around for a while, or maybe this specific model. I think this is a pretty new one for them, and that's kind of exciting. I always enjoy hearing your thoughts, and I hope you guys have fun out there. Ride safe. I love you, and I'll see you next time.